When did you finally stand up to a toxic boss? My boss had a habit of taking credit for everyone else's ideas. Not just casual mention in passing theft, but full-on intellectual robbery. Mark would hover around our cubicles during brainstorming sessions, saying nothing, then mysteriously present our concepts as his own at executive meetings the following week. I spent 6 months developing a new customer retention strategy. Late nights, weekends sacrificed, endless data analysis. I'd poured everything into this project. The numbers didn't lie. Early implementation had already boosted retention by 37% in test markets. This wasn't just another report. This could transform our entire business model. 3 of my colleagues had already quit because of Mark's plagiarism problem. One even had a breakdown in the parking lot after Mark received a bonus for his innovative approach to something my colleague had created from scratch. HR did nothing. Upper management was oblivious, but I wasn't planning to quit. The quarterly leadership summit arrived, our company's big show where directors and VPs gathered to share victories and strategies. Mark had been bragging about his presentation all week. I noticed he'd removed my name from all the slides and documentation. I sat quietly in the back of the conference room as Mark confidently strode to the podium. He was wearing his expensive suit, the one reserved for impressing executives. I recognized the familiar introduction slides, now emblazoned with only his name where our team used to be credited. This revolutionary approach to customer retention, he announced, chest puffed with unearned pride, represents a fundamental shift in how we engage our core demographic. For 45 minutes, I watched him present my research, my analysis, my conclusions, my charts, even using phrases I'd coined during our team meetings. The executives were clearly impressed, nodding along, taking eager notes. As he neared the end of his presentation, the CEO leaned forward. "This is remarkable work, Mark. Did anyone else contribute to this project?" This was his chance, a perfect opportunity to acknowledge the team. Instead, Mark cleared his throat and said, "My team provided some basic research and administrative support. The strategic framework and implementation plan were mine." The room erupted in applause. Mark beamed, soaking in the undeserved praise. I remained perfectly still, watching as executives congratulated him. 3 days later, the company announced a special executive dinner to celebrate the new retention strategy. All department heads would attend. Mark would give an expanded presentation, and there would be a surprise announcement at the end, likely the promotion he'd been angling for all year. That evening, I dressed carefully in my most professional attire. I wasn't invited to the dinner, but I knew the restaurant. It was our CEO's favorite steakhouse. I arrived 30 minutes early and asked the hostess to deliver an envelope to our chief operating officer. Inside was a single page outlining what I had documented, with my phone number at the bottom. 10 minutes into the appetizer course, my phone rang. The COO asked me to come inside immediately. I walked calmly into the private dining room where 20 executives sat around a massive table. Mark froze mid-sentence when he saw me, confusion spreading across his face. "Please join us," the CEO said, gesturing to an empty chair they'd pulled up. "Daniel has some context to add to tonight's discussion." I sat down, placing my folder on the table. "Thank you for including me. I believe I can provide valuable background on this strategy's development." Mark's face fluctuated between confusion and dawning horror as I was invited to speak. The COO nodded at me. "Why don't you start from the beginning?" For the next 20 minutes, I methodically walked through my documentation, original concept notes, development timeline, emails where Mark had requested my thoughts before his brainstorming sessions with leadership. When I finished, the silence was deafening. The CEO finally broke it. "Mark, do you have a response to this information?" Mark stammered about collaborative environments and synthesizing team inputs, but his excuses withered under the weight of the evidence. 2 weeks later, I found myself being offered leadership of a new strategic initiatives team, reporting directly to the executive committee. Mark was suddenly pursuing other opportunities outside the company. His desk was cleared out the same day.